Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Veg Networking Canada, where vegan plant-based people and companies connect. It's important to honor and acknowledge that we are located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of many Indigenous peoples of Canada. Today, we have a special guest with us. She has a PhD in obstetrics and gynecology, specialized in lifestyle changes for hormonal health. Currently, the research manager at the Institute on Aging and Lifelong Health. Plus, she's an adjunct professor in the Faculty of Psychology at the University of Victoria. She has a burning passion for empowering people to improve their quality of life through lifestyle. Veg Networking Canada is pleased to introduce Dr. Dylan Cutler. Welcome, Dylan.
Thank you for that welcome. I do have a burning passion. I love that you said that.
Well, we're thrilled to hear all about that. And so, can you tell us the story of what led you to go vegan?
Definitely. So I've been vegan 14 years now. I was vegetarian before that. So it was probably when I was 14 years old when I was struggling with irritable bowel syndrome or IBS. And it's not fun. I don't recommend. It's a lot of abdominal discomfort, bloating, constipation. And I discovered through my own patterns that my symptoms are worse after eating meat, specifically red meat or chicken. And so I told my mom one day I don't want to eat these foods anymore. They hurt my tummy. That was all I could really, attribute it to at the time. Time goes on, and I'm vegetarian to those. I'm not eating meat or chicken. And then I start to learn more about veganism in through my own work or my own research studies in college. So I was actually part of a course called health psychology in my final year of college. And we had to set a health goal for ourselves for the semester. And the idea was we were going to go through the behavioral set, like goal setting, the best way to go about goal setting, essentially, when you're trying to make a behavioral change. And I was looking at my lifestyle and I honestly couldn't really find any changes to make at the time. I was a varsity athlete, so I was highly active. I didn't drink as much alcohol as my collegial peers. I slept pretty well. I studied a lot. I just had a pretty balanced life, I guess. Looking back, there's things I would change, but at the time I thought that I was very healthy and I was really struggling to make, what change am I going to make for this semester. Then I decided to look more into my nutrition, if I could hone that in a bit. And that's when I discovered plant-based nutrition, specifically for combating type 2 diabetes and heart disease, which are two conditions that I'm at greater risk of because I also have polycystic ovary syndrome, which is now called polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome, or PMOS. It's a mouthful, I know. So I decided that I was going to go that extra step as I was already cutting out meat. I was going to go that extra step for my health, and I never looked back after that semester. I kept that goal, and it was truly a couple years down the road from then that I started watching documentaries on veganism and learning more of the ethical side of veganism. And that is what has kept me vegan as opposed to those health changes. Because I tend to say, like, not, I could still probably be as healthy as I am if I was, say, 90% plant-based. But that extra 10%, that 100% is for purely ethical reasons. I don't want to hurt animals. And that's why I've maintained veganism for 14 years now.
Incredible. Yeah, I think we've had some other folks come on and talk about things to do with gut and disruption and IBS and things like that. And yeah, it's
I know I
not.
just started right off the bat talking about my bowel habits, but yeah.
So what you in the bio, right, or in the intro to you, you're doing a lot, but in terms of your entrepreneurial hat that you put on as a educator, consultant, all of that, what's your origin story about becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I have a unique story as I never set out or saw myself as an entrepreneur. I just sort of happened upon it because I was not happy doing what I was doing. So I do have a PhD, but during my graduate school experience, I was severely depressed, couldn't get out of bed to go to class or to go to the clinic where I was doing my clinical trials, and I felt very stuck. So I started making beautiful breakfast for myself because I was inspired by that to make a beautiful smoothie bowl, which were really trendy at the time, and then to post it on the internet because then I would inspire other people to do the same. And it kind of took off. I didn't realize that people were going to enjoy it as much as I've been enjoying it. And it worked for me getting myself out of bed because then I was like, people are expecting this from me and they want to know like what's the beautiful, nutritious meal going to be today. And so I dove headfirst into food blogging and discovered that this is a real career possibility for me and that I could tie in evidence-based nutrition with the beautiful food. And so my goal is essentially to draw people in with the nutrition, or sorry, with the beautiful, yummy food, but then to teach them about plant-based nutrition, veganism, and essentially what we're eating when we sit down for a meal.
Hmm.
So that's the short how I got into it. Um, After when I was officially a doctor, I started seeing patients or clients with PMOS and started coaching them on plant-based nutrition. And that's when my consulting practice took off. And now I'm moving more into a course-based practices where I am actually preparing to launch a course for women right now on plant-based eating for PMOS. And then that will include a community aspect, not just one-on-one with myself, but the community aspect of meeting other people with PMOS who are struggling, but want to keep eating a vegan diet or maybe more go towards veganism.
Well, that's perfect because the next question for you is where is your brand going in the future? And so would you like to touch more on like the specifics about the launch of this course and just anything on the community side of people living with PMOS or any of that stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, research is showing that community is so important, that social isolation is one of the, like almost as bad as smoking for our health now. And I think it's getting worse because we are living more isolated lives. COVID definitely affected everyone in some level as far as isolation. And I think we're still trying to crawl back from that time. And there's also other factors. People are working way too much and don't have a lot of time and need to make money, of course, and don't have a lot of time to nourish friendships. So I think community is super important. So if I can tie in community to anything I'm doing, then I'm all for that. Specifically for people with PMOS, it can be very isolating. You don't typically talk about it because a lot of the symptoms are quite stigmatized, like infertility, weight gain, like hair growth on our bodies, facial hair. So kind of most of us keep it to ourselves until we meet someone that kind of hints that they also might have this, or maybe they're outspoken about it, and then you have a lifelong friend, is what I've found in my experience. So I'm really hoping that I can bring people together that are struggling. And then also the veganism part, it's pretty rare in the PMS community to find a practitioner that is supportive of a vegan lifestyle and a plant-based eating lifestyle, because what is more trendy is keto or like high protein is super trendy right now, which is, of course, a little more difficult being plant-based. Um, but really, those aren't my focus on PCOS. For me, I look at fiber, and fiber and plant-based nutrition go together perfectly. So I think that we've kind of lost the plot a bit when we're focused on high protein meals and snacks. And I was out Whole Foods the other day and I saw high protein donuts. And I just like laughed to myself because that's, yeah, it's marketing. It's what the trendy is trending right now.
So did I hear you say PMOS and then PCOS? And
Yeah, the name just changed and I am still getting used to it because I was diagnosed when I was 16, so I've been saying it for 20 years now. But it changed because polycystic ovary syndrome was not truly what the syndrome entails. There's a metabolic component, so they've added polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome to indicate the metabolic endocrine aspects.
oh, interesting. Okay, because yeah,
Mhm.
I've definitely heard PCOS, but that's good to know.
Yeah.
Um,
I will
so
probably keep making that mistake, as I said, because I've been saying it for so many years and my PhD was in PCOS too. So it's not going to be an easy change for me.
yeah, I'm sure for a lot of people too. Um, now maybe I don't know if this is a tough question or not, but in terms of your industry and what you're doing, are there any transformations or trends that you've noticed or are starting to notice?
Um, I do see more acceptance towards plant-based nutrition. Especially there's a lot more research to back it up if you are relying on evidence-based nutrition, which is what I do in my practice. I still see keto carnivore, which was the case 10 years ago. It's still very prevalent. And unfortunately, I think there's now with the way that any voice can take off online, it's hard to know who to believe. So I think that misinformation is worse than ever, and that this is a responsibility I feel as someone with a doctorate to combat that misinformation with evidence. And so that's a trend that I'm constantly frustrated by and also have to use that for inspiration to keep working.
Yeah, I guess it's tough to figure out the psychology behind how to make evidence actually land with people who just like what they like or believe what they believe in
Hmm.
spite of the evidence, I guess.
Yeah, it is. I think that there's a number of different ways to it. Like I do think that a gradual shift, like I did, I was first vegetarian and then fully vegan. That was more effective for me in sustaining my practice. I think that if I were to go 100% vegan from the get-go, I think that can be very overwhelming for people, especially if you grew up eating like steak potato meals. So I think that introducing plants is a great way to kind of slowly nurture that like the habit and then to gradually keep adding that as opposed to saying like okay you can't eat that or restricting certain foods. So that's something I do with clients is like what can we add to the plate? Can we add a handful of berries to your ice cream, or can we add a smoothie uh, at breakfast, and that will slowly push out the other foods that maybe are not as plant forward or healthful.
Yeah, for sure. Now, all of the folks that come to here to Veg Network in Canada, they're all doing like amazing things in their field. They're giving back in just the way that they show up in the world in terms of running like a conscious or compassionate business. Um, but more so from like you have your traditional like charitable conversations, like what organizations do you support with your money? But then there's also the like what do you do for time or how
Mm.
so the question for you is there anything that you do personally or in your business that you're doing now, have done in the past, or are looking to do in the future in terms of giving back in any organizations that you really, really love?
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially as we become more successful to give back more and have the means to do so. I personally support the PCOS Association or PCOS AA Awareness Association. They're a nonprofit for polycystic ovary syndrome, and every year I speak at PCOS Con, or almost. I think it's going to be my fifth year in September. And I think that's important to give back, give my time, give my knowledge in that way. I also I will just spoke at Veg Fest, which is how I came to be connected with this group. As far as charitable organizations in the city, Salal is an organization for against sexualized violence, and they support people and survivors of sexualized violence. And so they are really close to my heart, and I did work for them for a little bit. So I don't work there anymore, but I do give back there when I can.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, for sure. In terms of entrepreneurship, business, veganism, lots of different ways you could go about this, but do you have any resources for folks listening that might help them with things in their life from mindset to business to veganism or anything? Podcasts, books, apps?
Yeah, podcasts. I love podcasts. I think they're a great way to pass the time when you're doing things that are not as interesting, like laundry or driving. And I actually listen to so many podcasts to learn how to grow my business. For specifically Vegan Boss Radio, is run by two sisters in Vancouver. And I was on that podcast, but I highly recommend them. They have a ton of vegan speakers on. As far as apps, Canva is my favorite for creating content. And um, I think that we need to keep creating our content as opposed to using AI generated posters and such because I know I can tell when it's an AI generated poster and it doesn't have the same like organic feel that someone they put together themselves. And so I'm even like more of a proponent of Canva now because of that. And I think you can easily make a beautiful poster without a graphic designer background, which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and then in terms of inspiration for you, it's clear like there's things that we can pick up on that inspire you, but poignantly, like who or what inspires you?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, there's so many women in my life that inspire me. Um, People that are vulnerable and honest about their experiences, and then especially if they've are honest about the adversity they've been through and what they've gained from that, that really inspires me. I know we all have stories, we all have trauma, if you want to go there, but I'm really inspired when people are vulnerable in like safe containers, and that inspires me to be the same way and to show up for people in the same way.
And then in terms of your career in what you've gotten to this point, do you have any mentors or individuals that have really inspired you along the way?
Yeah, right now my mentor is my supervisor, Jody Garlick. She's a neuroscientist, and she really I think I think you can see like this selflessness in people and who want to mentor you without even in saying those words, and that's really inspiring to me. I did have, I've also had the opposite where I didn't have positive mentors, and that's inspired me in opposite ways to be the opposite kind of leader for people looking up to me.
Yeah, totally. Know what you don't want. Yeah, they say that a lot with parents, right? Like when you have either want to be like your parents or do it differently than your parents did
Yeah.
or
Oh,
vice.
my parents are incredible. I also look up to them. My mom has overcome a lot. My dad is on a health journey, and he comes to me a lot with he sends his meals, a lot of like plant-based meals that he's eating, and it's really adorable.
Oh, you must be so grateful for that.
Yes, totally.
Um, and in terms of everything that you know and have gained insight on over the years, do you have any, whether it's specific to your PhD work or your business, do you have any advice, lessons, tips for other entrepreneurs who are listening?
Hmm. I would say don't do it alone, because entrepreneur life can be very lonely. And even if the work, say you are a solo business owner, that's great. But I mean, to have peers that you can bounce ideas off of, even like body double dates where you're co-working on your own thing, but with someone else, because it is really a unique experience where you don't really have a workplace necessarily to go to have those conversations that just come up when you're around other people. And I think that's really important to keep our minds active and open to new ideas and also get feedback so we don't become our own little like silos and little like soundboards within our own head. It's good to still get advice and input from other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so there's a lot that we touched on, but is there anything that we missed that you think is important to share with this type of a community and people who are interested in veganism and business and all that kind of stuff? And or maybe we did touch on something, but just briefly, and it kind of made you want to go back to it, or some announcements that you have in your life or your business. Just kind of want to leave that open for you.
Yeah. Um, I think back to kind of like getting feedback from other people. I think also um, being authentic to yourself and your values. It's definitely not the easiest path to take because it is against the grain in a way that most people are not vegan or most business owners are not vegan forward. So, um, there's opposition almost every day. And I probably don't have to say that, and people just understand what I'm getting at. Um, so to know yourself and know your values, and have a way to remind yourself of those, I think is really key. And then I would just say that I do have a vegan cookbook, with 30 recipes that came from my kitchen and 2 years. So if you're interested, you can find that on my website too.
Yeah, what's it called?
It is called Cooking with Compassion.
Awesome, awesome. And it's 30 recipes of like all like breakfast, lunch, dinner type stuff, or what is it?
Yeah, it's all breakfast. I think I broke down breakfast, snacks, meals, and some drinks.
Oh
Ah,
yeah,
there it is.
nice.
It's the links in the chat. Yeah, and it's vegan and gluten free. They're just naturally gluten free cooking.
Okay, cool. Very cool. Alrighty. Well, that was it for today. And thank you so much for your time and being here and spending with us. And um, this has been another episode of Edge Networking Canada with Dr. Dylan Cutler. Dylan, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody who's been here with us live, thanks for joining us. And those who are going to be listening on your own time, thank you for joining us. And we'll catch you soon on another episode of Edge Networking Canada. But for now, take care.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.